really passionate about was barbecue. We take a look at this one. See this side? So it started off as I bought a smoker, what I thought was the Rolls Royce of smokers. It was a 3-in-1, actually 4-in-1 combination grill. There was a gas grill section. A completely different section was charcoal grill that had a smoker box. And then there was like a propane burner grill thing on the side. So it was a special 4-in-1. And I thought, this is the be all end all of grills. There's nowhere to go from here. This is the top of the mountain. This is Mount Everest.
That's how you start a campfire in Carter County.
Freaking awesome.
You're watching Pellet Cookery University with Fast Eddy. Light 'em up.
Well, hello. I want to welcome everybody back to Pellet Cookery University. And today we have a special guest. You've probably seen him around the YouTube channels. If you haven't, you really should take a look at his channel and subscribe. Jeremy Yoder, mad scientist of barbecue. How you doing tonight, Jeremy?
I'm doing great. Cooked outside today, but it was a short cook, so that's a win. I'm going to go to bed on time. And it's a good day.
We'll try not to keep you up all night here chatting about your favorite topic, barbecue and maybe pellets. So give us a little background history to those that here on Pellet Cookery University that's never maybe ever heard your channel, or just give us a little synopsis of your background and you becoming a science teacher and trying to put the two of them together.
Sure. Yeah, so I'll try to make this brief, but yeah, I was born into an Amish family, and my parents decided to leave the Amish when I was in elementary school. And it kind of opened up the world of education because typically, Amish people only go to 8th grade. And so I was like, well, I'm going to go to high school. I'm going to learn whatever I want. And I got really into science. And I went to college and got a degree in biochemistry. And I thought, okay, well, I'm going to go to medical school, be a doctor. I'll earn a good living and it'll be, something cool. And maybe I'll have a nice house and a nice car and a nice watch someday. But one of the things I did in the summers was I shadowed doctors. So just basically, I followed them around and saw what life was like. And every single one that I shadowed was miserable. And so I was like, well, I got to maybe figure something else out because I'd rather not be miserable. Ideally, I'd be happy and rich, but miserable and rich is not a good combination either. And so I moved to LA to go to graduate school and started working as a school teacher at the same time. And I taught at a private school in Woodland Hills that kind of catered to the children of the rich and famous. And I taught science, math, 9th grade English, 10th grade English, 11th grade English, 12th grade English. Managed a reading program for the school, taught biology, AP biology, chemistry, AP chemistry, tons of different stuff, just kind of where I was needed. And I worked really hard to be able to teach well, to connect with the students, because in a room full of adults, if you're boring, they'll just, you won't know that you're boring. But in a room full of 7th graders, really fast if you're not connecting with your audience, because they don't make any bones about it, like, Anyway, so I worked really hard at that, but I knew that it wasn't the future for me, because my wife and I were like struggling to pay for our 1-bedroom apartment. And, I just knew I needed to do something different, and I wanted to pursue something. Instead of just I go into work and I do the next task that's given to me and the next task. And so what I'd become really passionate about was barbecue. So it started off as I bought a smoker, what I thought was the Rolls Royce of smokers. It was a 3-in-1, actually 4-in-1 combination grill. There was a gas grill section. A completely different section was charcoal grill that had a smoker box. And then there was like a propane burner grill thing on the side. So it was a special 4-in-1. And I thought, this is the be all end all of grills. There's nowhere to go from here. This is the top of the mountain. This is Mount Everest. I started cooking a few things in California. It was tri-tip because I could find that everywhere. And then it started to go from, like weekends cooking tri-tip to weekends cooking brisket to weekdays cooking brisket and not getting very much sleep because I was trying to master it, because I'd kind of been bitten by the barbecue bug. And then I went on a trip for work to Austin, Texas. It was a big education conference, and I considered myself like the barbecue master at this point. I thought I had figured it all out. I know everything there is to know. And so I went to a restaurant there and had a bite of food, and I realized, I thought I was the man. I'm not the man. There are people who are way better at this than I am, and I need to figure this out. And so I bought an offset smoker, tried to, do my best version of Texas-style barbecue. And then, I would cook a lot of food just to try to get better. And I started giving it to friends, and they started asking me, "Oh, hey, could you do like a catering event for 300?" And I would say, "No, I mean, I can cook like 2 briskets, maybe 3. That's not going to be enough for 300." And so eventually I took all of the money I had in the bank and bought a 500-gallon smoker on a trailer. And for the last year that I was teaching, I would do barbecue pop-ups on the weekends or a barbecue catering event. It made for a very difficult year and not a lot of sleep, but it also made it possible that when I quit teaching, I had a bunch of barbecue gigs lined up. And so I was doing that, and the business was growing, started doing barbecue catering for some kind of upscale clientele. And I was like, this thing's really catching on. Maybe someday, this is going to be like the beginning of a barbecue empire. And then COVID hit, and I was like, awesome. I got 2 weeks off, and then I'm back to work. It turned out it was not 2 weeks, and it turned out that any gatherings of 10 or more were banned in California. And my wife was 6 months pregnant at the time with our first daughter. And I thought, earning $0 is not a sustainable plan for the future. And so we moved back to Kentucky to be closer to family, reduce the cost of living. Hopefully things would be more open. They could do barbecue events. But in that 3-month interim, before we moved back, I had made some YouTube videos before, but sometimes it'd be 3 months in between, 6 months in between. It's just whenever I had time and, I had something I wanted to make a video about. But during COVID, I was like, all right, I'm just going to crank out, at least 1 video every week, maybe 2 videos a week. Because, I can earn something, from that. At least I'm trying something. I'm not just sitting on the couch. Because if I'm trying to earn money and failing, I feel like my wife will forgive me. But if I'm not even trying, she's not going to forgive that. So I did that. And then by the time we moved to Kentucky, the YouTube kind of focus had become more profitable than like the catering and pop-ups. So I thought, well, okay, if this is working out, I'm going to keep pursuing this. And so I started making videos regularly, and the channel became the full-time gig as of August 2020.
Okay, so you've been at it 5 years.
Yeah.
Coming up. So when you decided to go full-time YouTuber, how many videos did you have on your channel?
That's a good question. I probably had maybe 40 or 50.
Wow, that's pretty good. Are you one of those that got caught up in the thing that when YouTube kind of changed a lot of things and it was a real problem? I know, like down at Cook Shack, we had quite an extensive channel. We were doing like 1 a week and putting up, they made some kind of change, and our whole YouTube channel thing just went to heck. So I don't know exactly what happened there. That's a Stewart story. But, so we've had to start kind of rebuilding from scratch. And it was more of how-to stuff. It wasn't, it typically wasn't, what you're doing by no means. It's just kind of how-to with the equipment and those kinds of stuff,
Yeah.
But,
I never noticed any kind of big difference. Is almost exclusively based on the quality of the video itself. So typically for me, if I put out a good video, it's like good, audio and video quality, and it's got the information to make it interesting to people, the video does well. If it's a video that's not super compelling, maybe it doesn't do as well. So I don't think I have experienced any kind of down regulation. I noticed that if I don't post regularly, or if the videos don't really have something to say, then they just don't do as well.
I went back and looked at the rib video you and I did about 1.5 years ago, and I was looking at the views, and then I was looking at the comments and those things on it. It was like, holy cow, we were just a hair under 900 comments on it, and I thought, well, that was crazy. And then views, it was close to 800,000 on it. So when I started looking at some of the others on it, it's one of your top videos in the last 3 years, probably in the top 5 or 6 from what I could pick out on your channel of how many people were involved in it. I guess people really like the nuts and bolts of just the standard stuff. It looks like, do you kind of see that they're thriving for that information out there?
Generally, yeah, because the majority of the audience is men. And I think typically men like to feel like they're an expert at whatever the thing is that they're into. If it's golf, they want to be an expert on golf. If it's racing, they want to be an expert on racing. If it's barbecue, they want to know all the ins and outs of barbecue, and they want to be like the barbecue god of their neighborhood. And barbecue is one of those things like driving and sex where all men think that they're good at it. And, so if you can give them more information so that they can feel like the expert, then yeah, they're going to be attracted to that. It's like, I want to know this, I want to see how this works. No, there's no way that this guy has figured out something that I don't already know. Or if he has, I'm going to, check it out and adopt it if it's good, or, just providing them with the tools in their tool belt to accomplish what they want to accomplish.
Yeah, well, and now Erica, I don't know if I'm giving the old man moment. She's probably done the majority of your editing for you, though, doesn't she?
Yeah, probably 95%. Yeah.
And she's really got a good knack for it. I love how they're put together, and she's really good at what music to put at when, and it's just very enjoyable to watch.
Oh, well, thanks. Yeah, Erica always she always kind of wanted to film and edit videos just because that there was something that attracted her to it. I remember took a film class in college, and I was asking her, why'd you take a film class? Because it's easy, right? She said, no, because I think maybe I'd want to get into film. And actually, when she moved to LA, she worked for a movie producer, and it was something that she had toyed with maybe pursuing, in earnest. And then when I said, hey, we should maybe film some YouTube videos, she's like, all right, I'm in, I'll do it. And so she definitely the creative one, films everything, edits everything, somehow magically still knows nothing about barbecue, even though she's watched more of my videos than everybody else in the world. And so either she's a bad student or I'm a bad teacher. I don't know, but it is what it is.
Maybe it's just that husband and wife thing comes out there.
Yeah.
We all have those, lots of those moments, even after 45 plus years, I can tell you that.
Yeah.
So anyway, you're a huge fan of Texas type style cooking for sure.
Yeah.
If you're not, you don't have to watch your stuff too long, and you're going to figure that out, that you're an offset kind of guy, and you really, you spend a lot of time in Texas, and you keep coming back. You've messed around doing other things and with other types of cooking. And recently you've been doing a lot of stuff on this with Al Fergoni and his style of outdoor cooking. It's very interesting to see and all. Where are you falling in love with any of that, or you're just a student of everything barbecue still?
Yeah, that's a good question. I like to say I'm a fan of any cooking meat with fire. There's just something primal, something visceral about it that just draws people to it. A couple years ago, my brother was having a birthday party at his house, and he had a bunch of his friends, like his, law school buddies over, and he has like a bar area in his house, and he's like a bourbon connoisseur, and so he has all these great bottles of bourbon, and they're all sitting around with a nice glass of bourbon, chatting, and it's raining outside, and I'm cooking for his birthday because it's my brother. I'm going to cook for his birthday. Like I'm not signing up for a lot of barbecue gigs, but that's one that I'll do. And I tell everybody, hey, I got to go check the fire. So I go out there. It's miserable. It's just pouring down rain. I'm like poking at the fire, putting a log on it. And once I got everything set up about right, I look up and I see that everybody's out there standing in the rain, like watching me tend a fire. And they're like, can we see the meat in the smoker? And the only explanation is there's something that draws people to it. So I'm a fan of any kind of cooking meat with fire. There's different parts of all of them that appeal to me, like the Argentine open fire stuff. It's as primitive and basic as it gets. It's like, here we have a fire that we build on the ground, and we're going to strap meat to this metal cross that we put next to the fire, and then we just wait. And then when it looks about right, we're going to cut into it and eat it. And that, to me, that's cool. There's something appealing. It's not pretentious in any way. And then you have Texas style barbecue, where it's like, we're going to, burn wood splits, and we're going to use these offset smokers, and we're going to keep the seasoning simple, even though a lot of people lie about that. We're going to pull out these briskets, and they're going to be black like a meteorite. And, we're going to sweat, and there's kind of an artisan craft nature to it. And that appeals to me. And then you have just the pursuit of maximum flavor, like the barbecue competition stuff that you did. It's like, how much flavor can I get into this bite of meat, and how can I get it to be the exact right level of tenderness? How can I have the salt dialed in perfectly? How can I get the bitter, sweet, salty, savory, sour, all of those? How can I get them perfectly balanced? And I appreciate that. There's like a science to it that I just appreciate the pursuit of perfection in that. And then there are gadgets and gizmos that make barbecue easier, and I get why that has an appeal. Eventually, someday, I think there's going to be a box where you take your vacuum sealed brisket, you put it inside, and then 10 hours later, it's going to spit out like a perfectly cooked, trimmed, seasoned brisket. And it's going to happen someday. And I understand that, but I would never want to get one of those. I would never want to get one of those because it robs me of the joy of being able to be the one responsible for whether or not it turns out good.
Well, there's still an artisan to it. I mean, that was one of the questions I scratched out a note here, and the technology of old school and offset cooking colliding, with the new school pit master out there, and he's burning gas and using just logs for flavoring, and it's old commercial stuff where they're using like a convection oven with a smoke box on it or something. Where do we lose the term barbecue? Is barbecue just going to be a generalized term, or should we start trying to make terminology? If it's going to be cooked with 100% wood, maybe we just call it live fire cooking. Or, should, especially as expensive as it is, and as much labor and love that has to go into it, should there be another term for that? Or we just keep staying underneath that barbecue umbrella and not really trying to let the consumer figure out there really is a difference here, people?
Yeah, I see where you're coming from, but I'm just trying to get to the place where people don't confuse barbecue with burgers and hot dogs, because sometimes I'll meet people, talk to them, what do you do? I do barbecue. It's like, oh, I barbecued burgers last weekend, man, it was awesome, bro. I'm like, yeah. Did you barbecue burgers? Is that what you did? I don't say that, I'm not a douchebag, but
when I first went to Europe, that's what they all thought barbecue was. Okay, it was just throwing something on a grill and grilling it, and that was their idea of barbecue over there. And I first started traveling over there in 2004, and Rick and Jackie Waite became a distributor for us, and they started the American Barbecue Company over there. And there's a long history. They're the only ones that ever came and won the Jack Daniel's World Championship from Europe. They're the only international team that's ever won it. So there's a whole story. There's a whole story to that, and actually Jackie's going to be one of my guests coming up. We're going to have a discussion and put that on the world about what exactly happened there. Why did she mess up the whole balance of everything? So,
did she bring in a ringer for the competition? Was it a
well, that was
Eddy?
the blame. There was a blame game that went on there, and actually that guy got banned from the park the next year down there for some reason. It just comes out in that story. You'll have to come and if you come back, and everybody, you'll have to check out the podcast when I do Jackie Waite, and we're going to get knee deep into that story of what happened and who got blamed for what, and who wouldn't allow them to come back in and cook on all the same equipment and things they cooked in before. And the best part about that whole story is the meat that they were given straight off of a truck from some meat supplier was nothing special, and that's the meat they won with. There was absolutely no special cuts or anything from any special purveyors used, which I thought was phenomenal, I believe that, to win the overall with that. How good cuts can really make a big difference, and
for sure
how a product comes out. So, but anyway, well, that's coming in. That's an upcoming episode. So everybody keep an eye out for Jackie Waite. And
I have to check that out. What country were they from?
UK.
Okay.
They're from the UK. It's a great story, and we're going to tell that story here and get into it. But I went over there 3 years in a row in the summers, helping them pound the pavement of getting the barbecue world, started up over there pretty hot and heavy. So we're one of the top cooker manufacturers in the commercial world over there. And the American Barbecue Company is still running. Jackie sold it And we got quite a good showing in Europe and around. So
That's super cool.
But anyway, so that was my wondering about is, do you think to me, it's so sad to see these people work so hard and, barbecue, actually good barbecue, good quality barbecue, and the amount of money and work and labor and time goes into it. It's so much more expensive than even a good high-end steakhouse as far as the labor side and what goes into it. Those steakhouses are making a whole lot more money than those people that are working their buns off doing barbecue.
Yeah.
I mean, this is just a sad, sad deal to see that it's gotten to be. Now, people got to realize when you see a brisket, there's a minimum of 50% loss in it. So if you're paying $6 a pound, it's $12 a pound before that guy's added any labor or anything to it. Is
Correct.
What he's got just cost into it, and it's crazy. And of course, the hours and hours and hours and the amount of equipment and all. And the barbecue industry sustain. I don't know if we're going to see growth in it necessarily, because if these people getting into it can't pay their bills, it's not going to be growing.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think as a commercial proposition, something's got to give when it comes to barbecue. I think probably to be successful in the future, it's going to have to get back to its roots of using inexpensive cuts. Because right now, like restaurants, or at least restaurants in Texas, are fighting over who gets the prime briskets from here or who gets the Wagyu cross briskets, and they poo-poo choice. We would never use, and so they're starting off with an expensive product because they're in an arms race with all of their competitors to make the most incredible brisket they possibly can, because everybody, I think, got caught up in kind of the artisan style that Aaron Franklin did. So you see all these barbecue joints popping up all over the country, and not always, but a lot of times it'll be such and such craft barbecue or such and such Texas craft barbecue is common, because they're trying to do craft barbecue, which means you take everything to the maximum degree. And in that respect, it's kind of gotten a little similar to competition barbecue, where, guys are wrapping in tallow and adding, extra, like tons of salt to really maximize the flavor, and throwing in MSG. And they're starting off with, at minimum, prime or Wagyu cross briskets, and they have complicated processes for how they're hot holding, and then they slice it, and then you got to dunk it in extra tallow or clarified butter. And it becomes a meal that's almost so heavy that you can't really make it a meal without feeling sick. And so they have these increased meat costs because they're in an arms race. And then they, if you want a brisket tray with two sides, you're looking at a lot of these places like $40-$50. And so they're getting squeezed from both ends. They're getting squeezed for the cost of the meat. And then customers aren't going to want to pay that, because that's a really expensive meal, $40 or $50.
Especially too, if you go out as $100 bill just to have a brisket dinner. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I understand why they have to charge that much. I don't think that they're sticking it to the customer, but they have costs, right? So they have that meat cost that you mentioned. And where I was in California, even back then, I was getting was $600 a cord, plus the seasonings, plus trying to buy the necessary equipment and the warmers and any kind of permits that you need, and disposable stuff that you go through. It's an expensive endeavor to try to do at the highest level. And so I think for barbecue to be attainable as like, it's a Tuesday night, barbecue sounds good, we should go to that barbecue restaurant. I think it has to be something simpler, probably with simpler seasonings, not trying to take everything to 11. And
or just be a rib and chicken joint.
Yeah.
If you're just a rib and chicken joint, you can make the money. And because, or if you can stay in the pork world, but this beef world and the beef brisket world is just, with everybody's bastardized the brisket. Look at Arby's. They're basically the ones that were, setting the price on commodity brisket now, because they buy so much of it. And of course, then you got the Buc-ee's of the world that chop it, You know, I mean, they cook this brisket. Well, why even cook brisket? Why do that? Why not just go buy chuck? You know, why aren't they just taking that and chopping it? You know, we got Quick Trips here in Kansas City, and they're they're a commodity brisket chopper now. You know, following the Buc-ee's kind of situation. So it's sad to see that cut of meat is just being ate up. You know, because of it. So
I bought my first ever barbecue gig that I did. I picked up my 500-gallon smoker the day before. It was several weeks late. That's a side issue. But I remember I ordered 300 pounds of Creekstone Prime briskets, and the total cost was $896.
Wow.
Yeah,
it's
$3 a pound. Yeah.
Yeah. And that was
where I live. Yeah, where I live now, I think Creekstone Choice is $6.87 a pound, and it's not feasible. And a lot of times people will ask me, they're like, "Oh, I got this barbecue business. You know, I'm eating up with the barbecue bug, but I can't make any money doing it." And they'll ask, "Well, how did you do things?" And when I was doing barbecue pop-ups or catering gigs or something, I had a very simple way that I approached it. I made as much brisket as I knew I could sell because I can't afford to have 3 briskets that go unsold at the end of the night. That's a lot of money going down the drain. And then I would cook as much, say, pork butts for pulled pork as I thought I might be able to sell because it goes a lot further. If people want pulled pork sandwiches, you can make a whole lot of those with one butt. And, you know, you can get at the time, I think I was getting them for $1.47 a pound. And it was a very simple cooking process. You know, it wasn't really any meaningful trimming involved, and there was a healthy profit margin on that. And then the best of all was chicken thighs, and that actually started just out of necessity. One time I did a pop-up at a brewery, ran out of beef ribs immediately. And also beef ribs. Beef ribs I considered like a lost leader. I would just try not to lose too much money on them. But for the dedicated people who wanted to get in line and wait, and they were there 45 minutes before we were open. Yeah, okay, you can have a beef rib, and you can post on Instagram about it and tell your friends about it, and maybe they'll show up. And then we had brisket. We'd go through the pulled pork, going through the pork ribs, and we were still scheduled to be there for another like 2.5 hours, and we had no food left. And I thought, okay, what are we going to do? Erica, I need you to go to Smart and Final and get me some chicken thighs. And she's like, okay. So she goes over there, gets a bunch of packages of bone-in, skin-on chicken thighs, and we kind of closed everything up, like temporarily closed. We threw those on, just seasoned them with what I had with me, which was salt and pepper. Threw them on, cooked them, had some sauce, glazed them with sauce, served them. We did chicken plates. Because in California, people aren't familiar with, like, I want a pound of this or a half a pound of that or whatever. They were like, do I have to buy a pound? Like, no, you don't have to buy a whole pound. And so we did chicken plates after the brisket plates and the rib plates and the pulled pork plates had sold out. And people went nuts for the chicken. I was like, what in the world? I wasn't even trying. I was just trying to get something cooked. And I realized that I could go to Costco Business Center or order from my meat supplier a 40-pound box of chicken thighs. And at the time, they were $24.99. And you can sell a chicken plate for, say, $12. That's pretty good because the cost of the sides are about equal to the cost of the chicken, which is not a whole heck of a lot. And so that's a place where you can make it worth your while. Yeah.
Right.
It's not like you're going to, be pocketing huge quantities of cash like you just took a company public, but it'll make it worthwhile to do that event. And so I think you're exactly right. As much as you can push sales toward pork or chicken, especially, then you can actually make money. Where brisket, it's hard to make money, but if you don't have it, then are people going to be convinced to show up? I don't know. It's a balancing act, and I don't claim to be any kind of guru. I just found that what worked best for me is cook a few beef ribs for the faithful who want to get there early, cook enough brisket that most people can get some, and then have the pork and chicken really make the night worth your while, like make it worth your while to show up that day.
I'm going to kind of change gears here and now talk about the biggest devil in the room. when it comes to offset cooking or live fire cooking, and that's
Okay.
your wood supplier. What's the secret for, keeping a good wood supplier? It's easy in Texas because there's several of them down there, and they really understand. I love listening and watching Javier from Chiefs Firewood. Do you ever met him?
I haven't met him. I've heard about him a lot.
Okay, I've watched his videos and all, and he does a great explanation of, their operation and all. But, being a live fire cook, that quality of that wood is everything, isn't it?
Yeah, so the quality of the wood matters quite a bit. And my advice to dealing with wood suppliers is trust no one. It's like, and the people you trust is, you have, say, your doctor, hopefully like your lawyer, and then like most everybody else. And then you have like used car salesman and then wood supplier at the very bottom, because they'll say, oh, I got a whole bunch of this oak. It is bone dry. And it shows up and it's like, this was alive last week, like this, I can't even get this to burn. Well, they'll be like, it's about a cord, nowhere close to a cord. So a good philosophy is maybe trust but verify, use the Reagan approach. But I don't even know if I trust. I'm like verify only. There are good people. Once you find those people, there are a few things you can do. Like you can talk to arborists in your area. Here, there's not like a big firewood scene. But because for them it's a waste product. If you're like, hey, you just want to drop off all of that oak and all of that hickory you cut down, I'll pay you for your time. They're like, oh, great, I'll just drop it off. Don't even have to dispose of it. Great. And then you just wait until it's dry enough to use. A $20 wood moisture meter will be really helpful to figure out if it's the right moisture content to burn the kind of fire you need. And I would say split the wood, do the moisture meter like from inside the split so you know what the center of the log's moisture is. And then investing in a log splitter, also very important. I have a splitter that's probably way too much for my needs, but in an offset smoker, especially in a backyard offset, you have to have fuel that's of the appropriate size. If you're dealing with splits that are too big, you're going to be fighting to keep your fire going. If you're dealing with splits that are too small, you're going to be fighting to keep your fire going because it's going to be like a match. It's going to go and it's going to be dead. And so that is the battle. It's probably the biggest headache I face on a weekly basis of trying to cook barbecue with an offset smoker. People don't really talk about it. They just assume that backyard cooks are like, I don't know, somewhere from the ether they're going to get the appropriate wood, but it's way more difficult than you might think to find wood at any kind of appreciable quality. Otherwise, you have to go to like Academy Sports and you get these boxes of wood and you're spending like $100 in wood to cook $100 brisket, and it just becomes a little too much.
And then that wood's been dried down so much so it doesn't mold in the box, and it really has the value of the flavor, and that wood's not really there itself, is it?
Correct. I mean, that kind of wood, you have to coax it to give you enough flavor. You have to keep the fire going, but you have to deprive it of so much oxygen that it will actually produce smoke and flavor. And it's the exact opposite problem of the wood that's too green, where you're like, please burn, please, but you get good flavor. I think when you get to maybe around 18-20% moisture is kind of ideal. It'll burn well, it'll provide great flavor, but that wood is difficult to come by. And I would say that most people who are cooking on an offset in their backyard have inappropriate wood. Either it's too big or too small or too dry or too green. There are very few splits that are in the Goldilocks zone that are going to give you the results that you want. And that's the biggest hindrance, I think. I mean, and then you have all the stuff of, you got to be out there managing the fire. You have, a long cook time. You have hot pieces of metal. Yeah, that's the biggest problem, is the fuel, for sure.
And isn't that the biggest secret, though, about Texas barbecue down there, is they got the best wood suppliers, and those people they know what they need. They can show up with exactly what they need to have for those big pits, and they're not having the struggles that other parts of the country are going to go through, to come up with really, really good wood. And then another thing too is, that you've got that beetle thing makes it illegal to transfer hardwoods from even between counties. And if you can get caught, if you've got wood, have you ever ran into that yet, where you got wood hanging on the side of your offset going down the highway and you're traveling across states or whatever and get pulled over?
I would say I've never been caught breaking the law by transporting wood from one location to the other. Never. I mean, allegedly, I've transported wood across state lines, but that's unverifiable.
Yeah. I know some people that's gotten caught doing it, and then especially on the tractor trailer guys that were getting pecan to go out west, and is like, okay, where's your papers? I got to see this. I got to see the kiln dried sources this came from, and to make sure that everything's killed. And of course, then there is here again, you haven't really got that really good 18% moisture content wood or whatever you're after. You can get it too dry, and so there's
a crapshoot.
So much.
You either have to break the rules and take the wood with you, or hope that the person wherever your final destination is has the appropriate sized wood, the appropriate variety of wood, at the appropriate moisture content, so that your cook will go the way it goes at home. I mean, it's offset smokers are definitely not the ideal travel pits, even though all the big ones come on trailers.
Okay, so now we've established the variables that you've dealt with and all those kinds of things. We'll bring it back to what the university talks about some as pellets. And you've cooked on a whole lot of pellet cookers out there, and
quite a few
different ones, and different brands of pellets and things too. And did you? I don't know if I sent you a link to it or not, but it was the class action suit that Traeger had come out of Utah and California, and they got them to agree to give the customer a $3 coupon. It was crazy, but the patent. I've been trying to get Joe Traeger to come on, because I wanted to ask Joe about when he dreamed up that patent of using flavored canola oil for flavoring pellets was genius, I guess. So you could call you had flavored pellets. Have you seen that patent yet, Jeremy?
Yes. So I did a video maybe 3 years ago, maybe 4 years ago at this point, where I addressed this. The way I presented it to the audience was, I can't prove that this is what Traeger is doing, but I have this patent right here that says that, they're the only ones who can use flavored oil to make these pellets. And their bag says hickory flavored pellets, and this bag says cherry flavored pellets. So I don't know, but I think I would go somewhere else. And I think I'd seen that class action lawsuit that I guess they had to settle, or I don't know if they settled or lost or what, but they were out, $1.5 million or something. And the pellets you use matter, especially because that's the sole fuel source that you're going to be using. That's a primary flavoring component. And if you're trying to do simple, make a meal out of it, barbecue, that's a very important portion of that flavor. And the reason you're cooking it on a smoker to begin with instead of the oven is because you want that wood smoke flavor. And so if you cheap out on the pellets that you're getting, or you're using a substandard product, you're going to get substandard results. You're going to get flame outs. You're going to get, issues that you face, and you're going to be asking yourself, how come this doesn't taste like fill in the blank when I had, good barbecue? So using good quality pellets really, really does matter. Just as fuel matters in an offset smoker, you can manipulate that fire, whereas with pellets, the machine is going to operate, and if you're putting garbage in, expect garbage out. It really makes a difference. At first, I was like, pellets are pellets. But by experience, I can definitely say all pellets are not created equal.
Correct. 100%. So, that's as much of your recipe as anything is. I mean, a pellet cooker can really, I've ate some really bad food off my own pits. Like, the worst I'd had in recent years, a couple of years ago, I was up in Seattle, and my niece had a PG 500, and they wanted ribs. So I threw some ribs on there, and I thought, okay, he's got some pellets down here, I'll throw them in. Oh my God, those things was awful. I hadn't ate that bad of food off one of my cookers in a long time, and it was just horrible. I mean, I didn't think you could have wood that bad. I've ate on alder or whatever before, and I don't know what I don't think it was in the softwood family, but I don't know what family that wood was in. But it was frickin' horrible. So, yeah.
They weren't wood fuel pellets, were they?
Wood fuel pellets would have been better. I 100% believe, between you and me. Because, I
Oh
mean,
man, that's rough.
we're going to have on my wood guy, Dave Nance is going to come on, and he's the one
Oh, nice.
that taught me, I've been around this 30 plus years. And when I finally tasted what Dave was making, I'm going, holy cow, and his philosophy is, it's like, fruit tastes better fresh because it has all the natural moisture in the fruit. And he
Right.
says, wood's no different. You don't want something that's been all dried up and then put enough moisture back into it so it'll hold itself together. That's what heating pellets are made of, and Dave, he likes that 16 to 18% moisture content. And then like Javier talks about, the phenols in the wood. And when you're pressing pellets that moist, you're actually trapping what phenols are in that wood in it is what you're doing. So it makes a different pellet. The problem of it is that type of wood is not hardly very available.
Sure.
Barbecue fuels are made out of waste wood product, and the vast majority of that waste wood product's already been kiln dried, which therefore you're down to, like we were just talking about in the sticks, there's no moisture in them, and that's getting into that fuel pellet world. That's why I posted, we're talking about one of our sponsors of this, and the main sponsor of this podcast is Grilling Pellets. And if you look at the spec sheet is posted on the website, and pay attention to the moisture content. It has a final moisture content of 6.5%, but it shows the ash content at 6.5% is actually like 0.53. So it's just a little over 0.5% of ash. But if you next to it, or the next line over from it, shows ash content if 100% dry. And it's actually way higher. So the moisture that's in that wood, that's in that pellet, is actually helping that burn better, is what it's doing. And I found that really shocking when I started trying to figure out what the heck was Dave making here, And I sent everything out for testing, and it burns better with some moisture content in it than it does without any. So, that comes back, it comes back around. It's like, I'd like to, they probably should have been called mini sticks, is what they probably should have been called. Yeah. So that's my acronym for these particular pellets, or mini sticks is what they are. But yeah, it's a huge thing. The fuel's a big part of the recipe. And you've been playing around with them some. What's your thoughts of that compared to others that you've tasted? There's some great, there's people that are making some fresh stuff out there. Naughty Wood, he's cutting his own, and he's grinding stuff up. I don't buy into, if you got trees that have bark on them, and bark's going to be make it more higher ash content is what it's going to do. You can't get rid of the bark if you're going to grind stuff with bark in it. I don't buy into, well, that's the flavor. You can get flavor without bark. It's just because that limb doesn't grow very big enough to where you can roll chain it and knock the bark off of it and get it clean. So,
yeah. So my, I guess, more limited than you, but my experience of testing pellets for performance and flavor has taught me that they're kind of 3 tiers, and feel free to push back or disagree with me on this, but there's like the bottom tier, which would be like if I go to my local Cabela's and I get their like Traeger hickory flavored pellets, I have very low expectations for that product. Then there would be like you can include like Pit Boss and other pellet brands. I'm not saying this is the definitive answer on this. Just anecdotally, in my experience, in the cookers that I've used with the bags of pellets that I bought, this is what I've come to believe. I'm not saying I'm 100% right, or I'm not trying to insult any of these manufacturers. Just for me and for the taste that I like, this is how I see it. So on the bottom of the pyramid would be like Traeger and Pit Boss and some of those big brands that widely available, but I don't think that they're all that great. And then you have kind of a mid-tier where it seems like it's better. You get more flavor. Like I'd say Lumberjack. I think it strikes a good balance between a reasonable cost and better flavor than I would get with some of the ones I'd mentioned previously. I haven't used, but I've heard that like Bear Mountain is similar, but it's not one of those huge brands. It's something that
Actually, the parent company that owns Lumberjack owns Bear Mountain too. Now,
well, that would explain it.
you
Yeah,
mentioned
so
both, right? Yeah.
yeah, so that'd be kind of like the mid tier, and then you have super premium quality pellets, and so then you have like so I think Naughty Wood makes a really good product, but you get a lot of clinker. So if you're willing to deal with that, then rock and roll. You can get good flavor, good color, kind of does what you want. A lot of heating content in those. But if you don't want to deal with the clinker, or some pellet grills just don't process those things well. It'll like jam the auger, or you have issues.
Yeah, the apparatus makes a difference. How they, do they have much of an auger? Do they just basically dump pellets into a fire pot? I mean, the apparatus can come into play, helping some of those type of brands or some higher ash content ones out for less problems. Yeah, correct.
Yeah, and then there's kind of in that upper tier where you're going to pay a premium, but you're going to get a premium product. You mentioned grilling pellets. I've cooked with those a handful of times, so I was really pleased. But I promise I'm not just telling you this. I actually mean it. My favorite pellets, bar none, and I need you to send me some of these, just send me an invoice, are the blue and white bag pellets that you brought when you came and we cooked those ribs together. Far and away.
Yeah. That's the Grilling Pellets Championship
those are the best.
flavor. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah, those are the best. Great flavor, great performance, everything I wanted, nothing I don't. And seriously, I need to get some more of those.
No, we'll get you fixed up.
All right,
for sure.
But yeah, so what you put in is going to affect what you get out. And because with a pellet grill, because I'm an offset guy, I like to get in there and tinker with the fire and check on it and move logs around and change the coal bed and manipulate it so I get exactly what I want. With a pellet grill, your options are more limited because you're not in there messing with the auger or poking around in the fire pot, or at least hopefully you don't have to. And so the one input you have control over is the fuel you put in that pellet grill. And you need to make a good decision with the fuel that you put in if you want the flavor to match the goal that you have in your head. Yeah, and I think you can make good choices, you can make bad choices, and you can make really bad choices when it comes to pellets.
Yeah. Well, one thing too, you cooking on pellet grills and stuff. Do you enjoy high temp cooking on a pellet grill compared to not being able to get your offset up into that 400 plus, without a lot of struggle? Getting it there. And another thing too, I wanted to bring out is you're a huge airflow guy, and I am too. Airflow's everything in a cooker, especially when you're doing barbecue. Not necessarily grilling, but when you're doing barbecue. To me, that indirect airflow is everything. And I want that come across just like what you do on an offset, and I want that fat render. And vast majority of pellet grills really lack that capability, because they have that fire pot, underneath the drip pan, and, trying to get that type of, offset style airflow coming across the food is not their majority. Anytime you're under a drip pan, so
it makes a big difference.
It's a big difference. Yeah. And I think that's what I missed, that when I started doing competition barbecue and I was cooking on an offset, and then when I went to the pellet grill and messed with the Traeger pellet grill, it was like, this is awful. We talked about that. I had Bob Robinson on. We talked about the early days of pellet grills. If anybody, go back and watch or listen to that episode of Barbecue Bob Robinson, he's the one that brought the pellet grill to the Midwest from Traeger. And oh my God, you couldn't give these things away hardly. I mean, it was we got knee deep on that episode, and it's a good one to listen to. You think you listen to the birth of an industry that turns out to be $1.5 billion a year industry. Isn't that crazy?
Oh wow!
And
that's crazy.
This goes back into the late '80s, early '90s, and Traeger held onto that patent and kept everybody away from it, which the form it was in, that wasn't too hard to do, because, we talked about all the problems we had with them. And then, of course, when you sold one to somebody, you ended up working on their grill constantly, too. It was,
Sure.
oh my God. Oh my God. But you get a chance when you get it, listen to that Bob Robinson one. But it's crazy where this has gone. And now, of course, too, I really think where this pellet thing shines is in pizza. I mean, the pizza that we can produce now with the heat and the fire coming off the pellets is just amazing what you can do. And that's why it's not Pellet Grill University, it's Pellet Cookery University. And there's some other things I think we'll see coming along down the pipe that's going to be cooked with pellets that you won't even think about. But
I used the Cook Shack pellet fire or pellet fueled pizza oven today.
oh, really?
I did.
Which one did you use? Is that the natural draft one?
Yes.
Okay, the PZ016.
Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, I don't know the model number, but yeah, the just a regular Cook Shack pizza oven that runs on pellets. And oh, by the way, if you want to know what quality of pellet you have, you put it in there, and you'll be able to tell the difference. Because the high quality pellets are going to be able to give you the temperatures you want, and lower quality pellets are maybe going to struggle.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's just a really easy way to, like, the pellets burning on their own. How many BTUs are they producing? Some produce a lot more. Some pellets produce a lot more than others. It's just super apparent because there are no moving parts. There's nothing going on. It's just the pellet burning, and you can really tell.
Draft. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so I used that today to do basically, because you mentioned steakhouses earlier, and one of the things that just, it's like a marketing term. It's like when people who have a Traeger and they've cooked like one brisket are like, and this is why all this barbecue is so great because of convection. And I'm like, well, they marketed you on that. There's not all that much I mean, there's a fan. I mean, anyway, but when you go to a steakhouse, it's like they all like to brag about the temperature that their steaks are cooked at. 1,800 degree oven, 1,200 degree broiler, 1,400 degree, whatever. And I was like, well, what do I have that could actually reach, those crazy high temps? And I was like, wait a second, I got that Cook Shack pizza oven back there.
Yep.
And I want to see if I can do like a Peter Luger style steak. And we'll see, does the temperature matter? Let's cook one at 600 degrees, one at 800 degrees, one as hot as I can get this thing running. And so it's funny.
I bet that was
we were talking
fun.
about pizza ovens today. Oh, awesome. Like, eat steak. I made up some chimichurri. It was great.
Oh, yeah.
Nobody was sad.
Oh, I bet. That would have been cool. Did you film it?
No, this was just testing. And so
just testing? Okay.
Yeah, just based on the test. Because some videos that I film, I know from the beginning, okay, I have an idea here. I think this is going to do well. We're going to, film it. I don't need to do a trial run because part of it is like, we just see what happens. Like, the trial run is the video. And then some where it's like, I have an idea, maybe this would be something cool, or maybe it's a complete disaster and I don't want to waste anybody's time. I'm not going to waste Erica's time. I'm not going to waste the viewer's time. I'm going to test some stuff out. This was okay, let me see how this works. Let me get my, bearings with trying to cook a steak in this thing. And then once I kind of have that worked out, then we can try it again. We can film it. We can present to the audience what the results are.
Okay. Did you use a frying pan to put it in?
Yeah, cast iron.
Yeah,
well,
cast
actually,
iron.
no. Carbon steel.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. That had to be cool.
I have the carbon steel griddle, and just put it on the griddle.
Mm-hmm.
That is exactly what it is.
Yeah.
Shout out to Made In.
I've got a made-in griddle. Matter of fact, I haven't put it in the pizza oven yet, but it's been in my travel trailer, and it's I just moved it the other day, so I finally found it. I couldn't remember where I'd put it because it was down in the bottom cabinet. But yeah, I'm gonna have to give that a try and mess with it. So, it's successful. You're gonna give it another whirl?
Yeah. I think it could definitely be done well. The heat conduction of the griddle kind of serves to cook the underside, whereas to do it in like true Peter Luger style, you'd only get like heat from the top side, I think. But you can still get the same effect. You still get like the great even browning on the top. You do the parsley butter at the end on a hot plate. Essentially, you got the foaming, bubbling butter with a little bit of green, and you see just this perfectly brown steak. You kind of dip it in the butter. It's just really good.
Oh man, I hope you do film it. That's making me hungry. I'd like to see that happen.
Yeah.
Well, Jeremy, we could drag on forever. We could spend all night here, and what we probably should do is get all these folks over on your channel and let them, come and check out some of the things that you're doing there, and down the road, we'll have you back, and we'll get into talking about the solution, how that's going.
Sure.
You've come out with your offset cooker, and a matter of fact, it's no secret, but it's being made down at Cook Shack. So
that's right.
Those boys know how to do something more than stainless steel, don't they? So.
I think the level of fabrication skills required to deal with the stainless steel and laser cutting stuff is beyond simple mild steel welding together an offset smoker. So I'd been there, I'd seen the quality of work that they do, and I was like, oh, these guys can definitely do this, and they do a phenomenal job. Yeah, they've got some good oil filled boys down there that can lay down some beads. So anyway, well, I was actually concerned about the drill baby drill thing. It's like, wait, are all these welders going to go back to the oil fields and stop building smokers? Oh no, what does this mean? Anyway, we'll see. We've got a pretty good cast. They got down there, and one of the things, I don't know if you got how much of a tour you got there, but one of the coolest things I think is the laser welder they got down there. Oh yeah, that laser welder slick, especially on doing all the stainless stuff. I mean, that's the cat's meat. And actually, you don't really want somebody who has a welding background. Speaking of which, you want to train your person. They've done a lot better with people that aren't welders and putting that gun in their hand and welding and moving with it than people that have another idea about welding. So it's interesting how that works. So yeah, when I was there, Stuart showed me a couple pieces that had been welded together, and I was like, "Oh, who did that?" And he's like, "Actually, there were some girls who came by, there were some students, and." It's really easy. And are they welders? No, never welded anything in their lives. I was like, wow, that's incredible. Yeah, it's, that's what manufacturing is going to come to, and the type of workforce and all. So yeah, that's really cool. Well, we're going to try to keep this, what I told you, we'll try to keep it at about an hour. But I'd love to have you back sometime, and can't thank you enough for coming on, and being one of my early guests here on Pellet Cookery University. And going to be fun meeting all these people I've cooked with and been around and seen and done, and get them all on here and let the world experience them too. So thanks again. Tell the wife, and congratulations on the new baby. Hope you're getting some sleep at night now too. You got another girl, don't you? Yeah, I got another girl. I'm still not getting a ton of sleep at night, but yeah, Eddie, thanks for having me on. I always enjoy talking to you, and I feel like you got so many stories that I think these podcasts are going to be interesting for a long time. And so I look forward to the one where you break down what happened at the Jack Daniels, and I'll be checking it out. Thank you again for having me on. It's been awesome. Okay. Take care. Thank you very much. You've been listening to Pellet Cookery University. Thanks for joining me here at Pellet Cookery University. I'm Fast Eddy. If you liked today's episode, don't forget to like, subscribe, drop a comment. It helps us feed the fire, grow the channel, and keep the smoke rolling. And if you're serious about cooking, check out cookshack.com, the leader in high quality commercial pellet cookers and grills. See you next time.